The battle over Wisconsin's law limiting collective bargaining, passed by Governor Scott Walker earlier this year, looks like it will be reignited once again.
After weeks of crisscrossing the state, a group leading the effort to force a recall election to oust Governor Walker claims they have nearly the 540,000 signatures needed for that recall to take place.
Joining us right now with more is Republican Governor of the great state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good to be with you. And yeah, we got to say hats off to Drew Brees.
Yeah.
But the Super Bowl still goes to the winner, and the winner is going to be the one going through Lambeau all the way through. So hopefully our next trip is to Indianapolis.
That's right. Joining us now with sports is the Governor of Wisconsin, Scott Walker.
Well, I got the Badgers coming up next week in the Rose Bowl, too. It doesn't get any better than that.
Sure. We just mentioned the recall, and I know your political opponents are trying to get hundreds of thousands of signatures. And there's an item that says that signatures of Mickey Mouse and are being considered valid because they may be properly dated. That seems crazy, doesn't it?
Well, the whole process is pretty unusual. I mean, we had one of the local affiliates here did a story about someone signing it, proudly saying they signed 80 different recall petitions as well. And so we went to court a week ago saying the Government Accountability Board, the agency in Wisconsin, should be making it perfectly clear that the law, as we see it, says you should be able to sign it once and only once, and it should be for a legal citizen. And to me, you're going to protect the integrity of the process. It should be not only for people who have every right to sign it, but also for those who don't want to sign it. Their voice should count just as much as anybody else's.
You got to be concerned about this, though, because we saw and we reported it right here on Fox and Friends a few days before Christmas. Obviously started rolling out some ads. First buy up there in Wisconsin in an effort to sort of put up a bulwark against this recall effort. How concerned are you that this is going to happen?
Well, we take it very seriously. You know, they already, in the first 30 days, had claimed at least they collected 500,000 signatures. They've got a goal of collecting nearly 1 million, which would put them far over the total they need. In our state, you only need about a quarter of all the votes cast in the last election to force a recall election, which is essentially a new election. We're running very positive ads that talk about how our reforms work. We've got stories from teachers and school board members and parents and small business owners. The other side has been running plenty of negative ads that really distort the truth. In fact, one of them, PolitiFact, actually said it was false. Another one couldn't be more false in the sense that we were one of the states that added more funding to Medicaid than just about any other state out there, protecting our seniors and needy families and children. So there's going to be plenty of distortions out there.
And it's interesting, Governor. I mean, it sounds as though some of those ads must be working. In the latest poll, it shows that basically the people of your state are almost evenly divided. 49% oppose this recall effort. 47% support the recall effort. And you just gave this interesting interview to the Wisconsin Center for Investigative Journalism in which you admit and you talk about the mistakes that you've made over the past year. What's one of the mistakes you think?
Well, I think the biggest thing is looking back. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20. But I look back to earlier this year in January and February of 2011 thinking, you know, I looked at it kind of like a small business owner. I said, here's a problem, here's a solution, now just go out and fix it. And what I probably should have done is spend more time laying the groundwork, making the case over and over again about how school districts prior to our reforms would have to pay tens of millions of dollars more for things like their health insurance. You'd have examples of people abusing overtime, like the bus driver in Madison who was making $150,000 or more per year. Those sorts of excesses and abuses are things that we tried to fix, but we didn't lay the groundwork for it. And so when we did it, the national big government union bosses came out and spent literally millions of dollars attacking us. They did again in the Supreme Court race. They spent tens of millions of dollars throughout the summer attacking state senators in recall elections. This is our first chance to tell the other side of that story, a story that in many ways would have been better if I told it in January, February, but I can't go back in time, so now all I can do is move forward, and that's how we hope to move the state forward.
Sure. Also, Governor, we know that when you took office, you had high hopes for job creation, and in the first 11 months in office, I know that they have there in your state created something like 16,000 jobs, but you were hoping that that number would be a lot bigger. I know the promise is, what, 250,000 by 2015?
Right, 250,000 new jobs by 2015, the private sector creating those, not the government, but we said we'd create a better environment for it. But put that in context. The 3 years prior to me taking office, Wisconsin had lost 150,000 jobs during the first 11 months of this year. I'd like to see
So
a
are you on
faster
track,
pace, no
Governor?
doubt. Well, yes and no. I mean, we had 16,000 net new jobs versus 150,000 lost. We say if you break that down every month, no, it's not on track. But if you look forward, we figured it would compound. Go back to that sports analogy at the beginning. If you take over a 1-16 team or 1-15 team, they're not going to go to the Super Bowl the next year. But if you have a 4-year plan, they are. The same thing's true with us.
But Governor,
lost 150,000. Now we're moving forward.
That's the same criticism that a lot of people have been saying of President Obama, that yes, he inherited a bad economy, but enough's enough already blaming the previous administration. Look at Governor Rick Perry. Critics are saying of you, creating an enormous amount of jobs down there in Texas, and the Associated Press sort of painting it as if you're walking away from this jobs pledge. At one point you said you wanted it branded on the foreheads of your cabinet officials. Are you walking away from that pledge?
No, not at all. People have asked me repeatedly this last week locally here in Wisconsin, are you sorry you made that? Did you aim too high? And I said, no, if you don't aim high, for the thousands of people in our state who are still unemployed, we've got to have a big goal. Now, a year ago, 7.6% unemployment. Today, we're at 7.3%. That's much better than where the president is nationally. It's much better than where neighbors are like Illinois at 10%. So we'd like to have more jobs, but in the end, our employment rate is down. It's fallen the last 4 months consecutively. It's better than it was a year ago, and we're heading the right direction. The last thing we want to do is reverse that with a recall and start going back to the policies that cost us 150,000 jobs.
Well, we know you'll be watching January 17th closely to see if they have collected all of those signatures. Governor Scott Walker, thanks so much for coming in and talking to us this morning.
And go Packers.
Great to be with you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed.
All right.